Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt the chill in the air? A glance that lingers too long, a forced smile, a polite greeting spoken without warmth. No one openly insults you, yet your body tightens as if you've been struck. A small signal like that is enough to weigh on you for the entire day. You leave the room, but your mind keeps replaying the moment. You ask yourself, what did I do wrong? Why are they treating me this way? The more you think, the more it feels as if your worth is hanging by a thread. But here is the truth. The pain does not really come from their eyes or their words. It comes from within you, from wounds that have never healed. A single indifferent look can cut deeper than 1,000 harsh criticisms, because it awakens the oldest scars you carry. The irony is this: you may receive dozens of compliments, but they fade quickly compared to one cold glance. How many times have you dismissed praise only to be haunted by rejection? So why do we react so strongly? The answer does not lie in the present. It lies in the past. If you truly want to understand, you must return to the roots. Because this fear did not begin today. It began in childhood, when you first learned what it felt like to fear being disliked. Childhood and the fear of being disliked. When you grow up in a family or an environment that doesn't feel safe, your mind learns to survive by paying attention to every small detail. You listen for the shift in someone's tone. You watch their eyes. You sense the atmosphere in the room, as if your survival depends on it. And for a child, it often does. A single frown, a heavy sigh, or a sudden outburst of anger from an adult can be enough to create the feeling of being abandoned. So you become a radar, always scanning, always on guard, always trying to predict what might come next. That radar once protected you. It kept you cautious, gave you a fragile sense of control in a world that felt unpredictable. But here lies the paradox. What once saved you has now become the chain that holds you back. Today, when you walk into a meeting and notice even the slightest change in someone's tone, your chest tightens. When you enter a gathering and see a face that seems less than welcoming, your mind immediately lights up with questions. Did I do something wrong? Should I change? How can I make them accept me? All of this happens like an old program running automatically in your nervous system, written many years ago. And the tragedy is that this program still controls you, making you live more like the child you once were than the adult you are now. You must ask yourself, are you living as the grown person you've become, or as the child inside who is still terrified of being left behind? What once kept you alive has now become a prison. And if you don't face it, this fear will keep leading you into another trap, the endless cycle of trying to please others. The trap of pleasing others. When the fear of being disliked still lives inside you, it is easy to fall into a familiar trap. The trap of constantly trying to please. You apologize even when you did nothing wrong. You over-explain things that need no explanation. You adjust your words, your smile, even your thoughts, just hoping someone will look at you with more kindness. But the more you do this, the more you feel yourself being diminished. Here lies a painful paradox. The more you chase approval, the further you drift from yourself. You think you are buying love, but in reality, you are selling out your own truth. When you bow low to be liked, they only learn to look down on you. And the lower you bend, the more you confirm the false belief that your worth depends on their acceptance. This is the moment to stop and ask yourself if you must change who you are to be accepted. Then who is it they truly like? Is it you? or just a false version you created in exchange for a fragile sense of approval. The trap of pleasing will never bring you freedom or genuine respect. It only keeps you stuck in a cycle, always afraid of rejection and always working harder to avoid it. To escape, you must face and accept a truth that is hard to swallow. Not everyone in this world will like you, and only when you are brave enough to embrace that truth can you begin to discover the real freedom within yourself. The trap of pleasing others. When the fear of being disliked still lives inside you, it is easy to fall into a familiar trap. The trap of constantly trying to please. You apologize even when you did nothing wrong. You over-explain things that need no explanation. You adjust your words, your smile, even your thoughts, just hoping someone will look at you with more kindness. But the more you do this, the more you feel yourself being diminished. Here lies a painful paradox. The more you chase approval, the further you drift from yourself. You think you are buying love, but in reality you are selling out your own truth. When you bow low to be liked, they only learn to look down on you. And the lower you bend, the more you confirm the false belief that your worth depends on their acceptance. This is the moment to stop and ask yourself if you must change who you are to be accepted. Then who is it they truly like? Is it you? Or just a false version you created in exchange for a fragile sense of approval? The trap of pleasing will never bring you freedom or genuine respect. It only keeps you stuck in a cycle, always afraid of rejection and always working harder to avoid it. To escape, you must face and accept a truth that is hard to swallow. Not everyone in this world will like you. And only when you are brave enough to embrace that truth can you begin to discover the real freedom within yourself. The truth that not everyone will like you. There is a truth many people spend their whole lives struggling to accept. Not everyone will like you. Human beings are different by nature, and that difference is what makes life complex and diverse. Different tastes, different values, different worldviews, all of these mean you will never be everyone's favorite. Yet we often carry a hidden belief that we must be liked by all, that only universal approval can confirm our worth. This belief is the invisible chain. The more you crave being liked, the easier you are to control. A single criticism can crush you, while dozens of compliments barely make a dent. If your sense of value depends on other people's approval, then freedom will always be out of reach. True freedom begins when you stop chasing acceptance. When you understand that difference is inevitable, you no longer have to lose yourself to meet the expectations of others. You no longer need to create a false version of yourself just to belong. You can stand firm as who you are, knowing some will appreciate you, some will ignore you, and some will dislike you. And so the question becomes, do you want to live as someone who waits to be chosen, or as living proof that your value is never up for negotiation? When you accept that not everyone will like you, a new door opens. It is the door to calmness, to dignity, to strength. You stop obsessing over their eyes, and you begin to discover a new kind of power, the power of neutrality. The power of neutrality. When someone doesn't like you, most people fall into one of two extremes. Either they fight back, getting angry to prove their strength, or they try to please, bending over to win acceptance. But both reactions lead to the same trap. You've stepped into the game the other person created, consciously or not. By reacting to them, you hand over control of your emotions. Neutrality is a different path. It doesn't mean apathy or indifference, and it doesn't mean ignoring disrespect. Neutrality means you remain calm and whole, no matter how others behave. You don't have to be overly kind to prove you're good. You don't have to strike back to prove you're strong. When you don't react, they lose their power over you. That is the paradox. Others may expect you to explode or to shrink, but instead you stay grounded. And that composure becomes the highest expression of personal power. So ask yourself this: do you have enough calmness to refuse to give anyone else control over your mind? Stillness is not weakness. It is one of the deepest forms of strength. When you are neutral, you step outside their game. You are no longer pulled into their battles or tangled in their emotions. And from that calm, you discover a quiet weapon that is stronger than anger or submission, the weapon of self-mastery. But to embody this neutrality, you must cultivate one essential skill: the ability to pause before you react. That pause is the line between giving away your freedom and keeping it. The power of the pause. In moments of provocation, our first instinct is often to react quickly. We say things we don't need to say. We do things we later regret. Acting in haste rarely gives us strength. More often, it leaves us with the heavy weight of remorse. In contrast, silence at the right moment can change everything. A calm look, a brief pause, can make someone think more deeply than 1,000 words of justification. True self-control is not found in how fast you react, but in your ability to choose the right reaction. Like an archer who never releases the arrow when his hand is trembling. He waits for his heartbeat to steady, for his body to be grounded, and only then lets go of the bowstring. That moment of slowing down is where real strength is born. A pause at the right time can be stronger than endless explanations. It keeps you in the position of power, no longer swept away by another person's emotions. And it sends a clear message: you belong to yourself, not to them. So ask yourself this: will you choose to react immediately and regret it, or pause and take control? The moment you pause, you reclaim your power. You stop being a slave to outside triggers and start leading from within. When you master the art of pausing, you uncover a deeper truth. You cannot change other people, no matter how you react, but you can change yourself, and that is where true power lies. This realization leads naturally to the next step, one of the hardest truths to accept: you cannot change them. You cannot change them. Have you ever believed that if you were good enough, kind enough, patient enough, then one day people would finally change their attitude toward you? You tell yourself that with one more explanation, a little more effort, another round of tolerance, they will eventually understand and accept you. But the harsh truth is this: no amount of logic will make someone like you. No act of kindness can force respect. And no effort guarantees that you will be treated fairly. Their attitude reflects them, not you. The coldness, the disdain, the rejection you sometimes face often has little to do with your real worth. It is a mirror of their own inner world, shaped by their past, their wounds, or their distortion. The more you try to change them, the deeper you fall into the illusion that your happiness depends on their hands. You cannot logic someone into liking you, just as you cannot make the sun rise in the west. Trying only leaves you exhausted, and worse, it makes you lose yourself in the process. So now you must ask yourself, how many years have you wasted trying to rewrite a script that was never yours to write? How many times have you bent over backward to please, only to still be left behind? Freedom begins the moment you stop, the moment you no longer give others the power to decide your value, the moment you realize your responsibility is not to change them, but to return to yourself and nurture who you are. And that is when you see clearly. Your energy must be redirected. Instead of pouring it into people who will never appreciate you, you begin investing it in real connections that will. Redirecting your energy toward real connection. One of life's quiet tragedies is that we often spend so much energy chasing after people who are cold and distant that we miss the ones who truly value us. You fixate on the indifferent glance, the clipped words, the subtle rejection, and overlook the warm looks and the simple but genuine presence of those who stand right beside you. The truth is that happiness does not come from the number of people who like you, but from the quality of the connections you cultivate. A small circle filled with sincerity is worth far more than a crowd of shallow interactions. Often, a neutral person, someone you may not know well but who is willing to listen and treat you kindly, can bring more peace than an old acquaintance who remains consistently cold. And here is the question you must face if you stop chasing after those who don't want to stay. Who would you suddenly notice standing by your side? Who has quietly offered you care that you've overlooked? Who is ready for a real connection, but you've ignored because you were too busy seeking hollow approval from someone else? It is only when you pause the chase that you can see this truth clearly. And once you do, you can begin to invest your energy where it truly matters. Choose to give your attention to relationships built on sincerity. Allow affection and connection to flow naturally, instead of exhausting yourself in an endless pursuit. When you redirect your energy this way, you don't just feel calmer. You rediscover balance within yourself. And in that balance, you find the courage for the next step to finally remove the mask you have worn for too long, and to live in alignment with who you really are. Removing the mask and returning to yourself. In the pursuit of acceptance, many people choose to live behind a mask. You smile even when you don't want to. You nod in agreement even when your heart says no. You pretend to be strong even when you are breaking inside. All of it, just to be acknowledged, to be liked, to feel as if you belong somewhere. But the mask does not truly protect you. It only makes you more distant from yourself. You might receive praise, you might receive approval, but deep down you know it isn't really you they are seeing. And in that moment, you feel emptier than ever. True freedom begins when you dare to live as your authentic self, even if it means some people will not like you. That freedom does not come from being accepted, but from having the courage to show up as you are. What you have been searching for so desperately in others is, in fact, the very thing you have never given yourself: unconditional self-acceptance. Ask yourself, if tomorrow you no longer feared being disliked, how would you live? What would you say? What would you do? Who would you finally allow yourself to become? The answers to those questions reveal the person you truly are. Freedom is not about being loved by everyone. It is about having the courage to love yourself first. When you remove the mask, you do not just find peace. You reclaim ownership of your life. And that is the doorway to the final realization, where you discover the deepest truth of all: living in freedom without needing anyone's approval. Freedom without the need for approval. True happiness does not come from being chosen by someone else. It comes from choosing yourself. For so long, you may have placed your future in the hands of others, believing that their approval was the measure of your worth. But in doing so, you forgot a deeper truth: you are the one who holds the power to decide your life. Think of the sun. It does not shine because it is praised. It does not need witnesses to justify its radiance. It shines simply because its nature is light, and so do you. Your real value does not live in someone else's eyes or words. It lives in the essence that has always been within you. Real love does not begin when someone chooses you. It begins when you choose yourself, when you stop chasing approval. Only then can you live freely and fully. So ask yourself this: if today you stopped searching for validation, how would your life change? What would you do differently? What would you finally allow yourself to become? When you find the courage to answer those questions, you realize that everything you have been seeking outside has always been inside you. True worth is not measured by whether others recognize you. It is found in your ability to recognize and honor yourself. This is the path to genuine freedom, a freedom that cannot be taken away because it does not depend on anyone else but you. And once you claim that freedom, your life opens into a new chapter, one that is deeper, stronger, and more authentic. If what you have just heard awakens something in you, if it makes you feel both alive and hungry for more, stay. Walk with us on this journey, because what you have just touched is only the beginning.